Hi guys, welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today's another day for a great interview, and I've been actually looking really forward to that interview. The reason is simple. My guest, like me, has gone through a period of darkness, and we men are so renowned for keeping our mouth shut. We men are real men. Boys don't cry. All that bullshit. And that is so counterproductive. This toxic masculinity has been riding me and prevented me from seeking help. And I bet you once we start digging with my guest today, we will find similar themes are playing out. Just an educated guess. So today, let's talk mental health, and let's talk with a man out of a profession where indeed you don't really the Mr. Nice Guy and the Mr. Fluffy, I would like to have a day off for self-love and for looking after myself, mental health day, doesn't go so well in corporate USA or Canada in this case. So Aaron Solly, we have got a lot to talk about, and I'm so grateful that you're here on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, really looking forward to chatting with you today.
That's cool. Now, I have today a bona fide banker with me. Oh boy. Now, for some of us, bankers are the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, I certainly have had a beautiful relationship with banking consultants or representatives of banks. So if everything goes smooth, you're the hero. The unsung hero. Often enough, things don't go smooth, and you're the bastard. So it's not necessarily a very beautiful environment in there, but this is my prejudice. I mean, we need to talk about that. But before you even went into banking, who did you want to become when you were a little boy? Who was the real Aaron? Who did you want to be?
When I was little, I was very creative. I loved performing. I loved doing lip syncing concerts and dancing and just being a performer. And then the other thing I did, and I just started doing it. I don't know what kind of inspired me to do it, but I looked up to the teachers in my elementary school. And so at night, it always took me a little bit longer to fall asleep at night. So I did this little game that I did where I would actually put my head under my pillow and I'd pretend that I was one of those teachers that I looked up to, and the grade 6 and 7 teachers. And I would imagine that I was teaching math or social studies. And I just loved it. So teaching was ingrained in me, as well as this creative side and performing and that as well. It was it's definitely things that I just loved to do as a kid. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah. But what happened? What happened? Did your parents support that, or did they say, "Yeah, well, how pretty now? Go behind your books because you need a job. You need to go to a high school, to university. Without that, you will be a nothing." Was that a bit your story of your childhood?
Somewhat, but my parents were really supportive. They didn't. They actually were very open, because myself and my cousins and my siblings, we'd put together these little concerts, these little productions and little movies that we'd film, and they would just all sit around and watch. And so they were very supportive of our creative energy and our the little plays that we put on and the lip syncing concerts. But when I was when I was in grade 4, I was struggled with school, and that was a point where I wasn't progressing as I was supposed to be. I was meeting a lot more after school with the teacher, and just my mom had to kind of work with me a lot more around my schooling. And when in that year, looking back, my grandfather passed away, so I was around 10 years old, and so that changed everything for me, because for me, he was the first father figure in my life. Because when I was born, very soon after I was born, my mom had to make the decision, because she wasn't in a safe place. She left my birth father, and so we lived with my grandparents since I was a baby. And so my father figure for the first 2-3 years of my life was my grandfather. He was amazing. He was in the radio business, so he loved recording our voices on those old cassette tapes and just playing them back, and then he'd play some of the old superhero radio shows like the Green Hornet, and really got me into just enjoying my voice, right, and learning a little bit of aspects as from a kid's perspective about the radio business. And I'd love hearing him because he did a lot of the news. He was the manager there, and he would do a lot of the news broadcasts. So to be able to put the radio on and hear him on the radio was really fun. And then I have really fond memories of he would watch Dukes of Hazzard and Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff with me, right? And but just really fond memories of him. I just always very curious, always very fun, always looking for really neat things to do together. So it was a tough time for me when he passed. Yeah.
So beautiful, but to be so creative and to be allowed to be so creative is beautiful. How, may I say then, why did you not continue? What changed so that you ended up in corporate Canada?
Yeah, I think a part of me really did change when he passed, because there's an aspect where because I had such a closeness to him, and my other siblings and cousins didn't have that relationship to him. I felt like I was in some ways mourning more, and I was crying myself to sleep a lot at night. The kids, it was decided, and at the time it made sense, is the kids were not did not go to the funeral, so we stayed at home and didn't go to the funeral. So there's an aspect there where I didn't really get to say goodbye in some ways. And he passed away during Christmas time, like just after a few days after Christmas, and Christmas is my birthday. Christmas Day is my birthday, so that time of year, lots of celebration, lots of family time, and the Christmases after that, it was still fun and it was still enjoyable with family, but there was those moments where we for a few years we couldn't talk about Grandpa's passing because it would upset Grandma, right? It would be upsetting to talk about. And so I didn't feel like I had a voice in some ways around being able to mourn his passing. And so I think, and I've done a counseling diploma, and I've learned a lot more about the impact of that. And I think a part of me changed as far as what I believed can happen with relationships, right? And that don't get too close is kind of, I think, a message that I kind of started to believe after that. If you get too close, something bad is going to happen. And so I kind of progressed to, decisions I made after that were a little bit more on the safe side, really just trying to play it safe and avoid getting too close to anything in some ways, because if I did, that loss could show up again.
And when you look at that trait, that is so typical of so many children who are going through a trauma in their early life, let that be children of alcoholic families, let that be a child who was experiencing sexual abuse once or repeated times, and then no one believes them. These are all become silent children that shut up and become hypervigilant around what is going on, and they need to work so much harder in later life to develop trust, because there's this core belief there. No, either I'm not good in it, there might be a self-hate component, he died because of me, or weird shit that we as children sometimes come up with, or simply, I don't know, maybe it is better to not get too attached to someone. And one way or the other, these are core beliefs that are so difficult to shift later on. Wow. Okay. So how was school? You were saying at one stage you were not so great. What happened thereafter? After your granddad passed away, did you throw yourself at school?
I was in grade 4. So there was still that struggle. In grade 5, I actually had to, my mom sat down with me and essentially taught me how to study, because I was not studying for the tests and the quizzes. And so I did not like it, but every day after school, I had to read the social studies book with her for half an hour, I think it was. And it just, it was a battle for me, but it's interesting because those little steps, doing that every day, when the quiz came, I think I got one wrong on the quiz. And it was just ecstatic. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I was done so quickly. And the teacher wasn't used to me, finishing so fast. And they said, oh, Aaron, you better look at your work again. And so I did, but I knew that I had the answers right this time. And it felt really good. So the rest of elementary school, I felt really empowered. I was still, that creativity was still coming out in different ways, like, doing like a paper mache volcano as a project and making it, like erupt with vinegar and baking soda and food coloring and that. But the progression to high school, it, somehow, and I think part of it's just going through puberty and becoming more aware of, being uncomfortable and being in front of people and making mistakes. But high school, I found a lot tougher because I became a lot more introverted, a lot more quiet and shy, and it didn't feel as safe. And I think that's part of an aspect of it, is that I went from the safe school in elementary school, and then I'm in this new place where there's kids from in our town. A lot of kids from other elementary schools all came to the same high school that went from 8 to 10, and then there was another senior high school that went to 11 to 12. So we're all coming together in grade 8 from different places, meeting new people, and it was, there's fun aspects of it for sure, but I struggled with connecting with a lot of friends, and I kind of just got stuck to a main friend group. I think it was more that trust factor. I just wanted to keep things safe a bit. Yeah, and then there was the lessons around starting to look at, okay, as I was going through high school, having something secure, something safe, something, going to university, to get the good job. My dad was an accountant, and there was some hints along the way about, to consider becoming an accountant, and so I didn't have any interest in it. I just I thought accounting was, like, my dad was an auditor, and auditing is one aspect of accounting, and I thought that's all what accounting was. I didn't realize there's all these different aspects, and there's even forensic accounting that is almost like the CIA version of accounting that I didn't know existed, right? And so I thought auditing was what accounting was. So when I got into university, I was like, this is not, this is not for me. And the accounting instructors were not they were really good at accounting, but they weren't really good at creating relationships and teaching, right? And so it just turned me off. But I did have this passion for business. And so I did take business, and I took HR. And so that education training piece came out in me in the HR resource component. And so that I was able to bring that, as well as, there was this desire, okay, can I start a business? Can I be part of an enterprise and help people in some capacity? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Because it is, for me, it's intriguing that you went down into that road of business, banking, etc. So as going into the banking world, what do you study to become a banker? Is that, I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I didn't take the advice of one of my HR professors. He said, in the beginning of 4th year, he said, start networking, start talking to companies and seeing if there's opportunities to do, to work as an intern or work in HR. I didn't do that. I thought, I'm going to wait till I'm done and just find work, right? And so after I was done university, I just started applying to all these HR positions. I had no relationship, no connection to these companies at all. And I got no interviews, right, in the HR world. Certainly. And so then I started interviewing in the community I was in. I lived in a community called Kamloops in British Columbia, Canada. And I just started sending resumes out. And the one industry that was hiring a lot was the banking industry. A lot of industry, university students, they'd hire to be a customer service representative. So you could come in, be a teller. Now it's the phrase teller isn't, the term teller isn't really used anymore, but customer service officer. And so they would train you. They would they would essentially get you trained to be in that capacity, and then there's just various courses you can take once you're in the bank to progress in your career. And I moved up, fairly quickly in the bank. I was very driven and wanting to learn. I had this passion to learn, and so I did that. And at the same time, I started to realize I was passionate about helping people. Right, I really had this passion to teach and help, and I was taking this education approach in the banking world. Where what I started to find as I progressed and I was in the industry longer is they didn't want you to spend too much time with the clients. Like I wanted to spend lots of time and get to know them and do this. They wanted business, right? They wanted more opportunities. And so this pressure started to mount around, Aaron, you're spending a lot of time, and these clients loved me, right? They we built really good relationships. I got to know their families. I got to know, their aspirations, why they were getting a mortgage, why they were starting a business. I love talking to the business owners, especially. But this pressure started to mount, and this is where the anxiety and the depression started to show up even more for me, because I started to feel that there was this pressure to perform and to meet these expectations that didn't feel in alignment with who I was, right? And so then I started to struggle with and get shut down, basically get stuck. Is I'm being asked to be this other person, and I can do it, and I actually did it, but inside it was detrimental to my mental health, really.
And that's such a common story, isn't it? We are trying to be someone. We are often especially women, they often tell me they were people pleasers. They were there for everyone else, but certainly not for themselves. And sometimes it took them decades to realize that they were essentially broken, burned out, and sometimes so deeply in a black hole that they considered taking their lives. And it's it is brutal, but you don't see it when you're in it. Did you have an awareness of it, or did you just silently suffer?
Well, what's interesting what you just said there is I actually, another aspect of who I had become, or who I felt I was the people pleaser. And I was giving up a lot of aspects of myself. And as a man, I was starting to question if I was the right type of man, because I wasn't like the typical guys that I hung out with that were more masculine, that were more into, hunting and partying and all this stuff. I had more of that feminine energy. So I actually related more to women and was like, is there something wrong with me? Right? Why am I this kind of, too nice of a guy, but I'm supposed to be macho. I'm supposed to be, this, this be more of a jerk in some ways, right? And I'm like, that's not me. I'm not gonna be like that. And so I can relate to the women that feel like being a people pleaser, because that's who I was. I was, sacrificing a part of me to help the clients out, to help my employers out, to help, And so.
You're right. People pleasing, that is not just something for women, although the trait seems to come out far more. They are trying to be everything for everyone. Yet I was trying to do exactly the same thing. And we are putting we're accepting the societal kaleidoscope view of how you are supposed to be. As a man, you're supposed to be a manly man, but you also be supposed to be innerly open and really being there. And then you have to be a good dad, you have to be a good lover, you have to be a good husband, a good provider. There's so many roles, and you have to fulfill all and every single one of them. And God forbid that you maybe get it wrong somewhere, then the whips are coming out. At least in my case, whap, how dare I? You have just worked 16 hours in your job. You're a failure because you didn't spend time with your kids. You're not a good dad. Yeah, hang on. I just worked 16 hours. That doesn't count. You're a shit dad. You're a shit husband. You didn't spend time with your wife. So this was the kind of skewed living I did. Was there the same competition in roles, or did you have similar perceptions?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because I went into the industry to help people, and I actually left the industry after 3 years after after university, I left and just wanted to try some other things. And then I got back into it because I had this passion to help people with their money. Because I was actually working at the time, before I got back into the industry, I was working for a software company, and everybody was going out for lunch every day. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people were. They were buying Starbucks maybe once or twice a day. And I was just seeing that, how are they setting up their financial future properly, right? They're spending so much. And if they put that little bit that they're spending every day away, they could set themselves up where they may not even have to work in 20 years down the road. So I had this passion to help people, but yet when I got back into the industry, I got to do that, and then I progressed up and I moved into these different roles, and I found again that pressure was even more, right? And there was a lot of game playing happening, a lot of there's a lot of people that were hitting these unbelievable targets that I wasn't going to play it unethically, right? I felt that I was going to do it what felt right. And so this environment became more of this sales kind of eat what you kill type of environment. And I stayed in it because it was the secure job. It was the safe place to be. Yet it was just, killing me inside because I didn't feel like I could be myself at all. Yeah, it was a huge struggle.
I always ask myself that question. I've never actually asked it to someone who is working in the banking industry. Do you guys get encouraged to put your money where your mouth is? So as a banker or as an employee of a bank, there are certain products that you're supposed to sell, which make money for the banks. Is there actually some proper education around, hey, if you want to become someone, then why don't you invest this way, that way, that way? Is there an encouragement for you to think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's that there. And you have access to all the services as an employee. So definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting because I'm not so, those few people who work in the banking industry, they have their house, still have a mortgage. They have no real estate investments. I'm not sure about their share portfolios. It doesn't strike me that these people are necessarily the people that I want to listen to when it comes to financial advice. May I just say it so? I have become a bit cynical of bank managers or sales representatives. Let's call it like that. Is my cynicism out of place?
You know what? I think that's if anybody wants to be at a certain financial place in their life, they should really surround themselves with people that are at there right now and learn how they did it. Right. I think that's really important. And exactly. The one thing that I found fascinating is I helped a lot of business owners, a lot of very successful business owners. And a lot of the interest was to try to help them put some of their money into the stock market. Right. And yet time and time again, these business owners would say, why would I do that when I can put money back into my business and I know I'm going to earn 20%, on my money, right?
Very true.
And I started to really listen to these business owners and understand that there's a whole other wealth growth opportunity that there's different ways to grow wealth, not just the ways that I was being educated to do, right?
Absolutely.
And there's some very smart business people out there that can teach this stuff that's different than what you learn in school, if at all you're taught in school about it, right? Or even what the banks are teaching.
Love it.
Because I struggled with being part of an organization that was all about the customer, but then also really all about the stock price, right? So
absolutely,
I wanted to be somewhere where it was all about the customer all the time and the employees. And if the stock, and then the stock price would it be impacted positively because that's where we're putting our energy, right? But that's it. Yeah.
That's intriguing. You have just opened a can of worms there, and I think hopefully, guys, any listener, viewer out there, this was gold. Because guess what? The products that you consider as sensible, like a saving account or things like that, it just nowadays makes me cringe. Nowadays, when I say nowadays, I have gone through a steep learning curve with regards to investments, with regards to shifting my focus away from being the breadwinner to being a business owner, to being an investor, and letting my money work for me. And that is a complete different side of the story. And banks, to my early surprise, had actually not so much to do with it, because money can come from all parts, and it's to actually learn about those things of non-banking lenders, and with that I don't mean loan sharks, okay, guys, but actually there are so many avenues out there where you can create a certain working money fund with which you can then address a project. There are ways how you can learn how to assess either a new investment as a house or other things. There are ways how to learn that. And once because you do that, it's an amazing path.
Well, and I think that it's really important before you start doing any strategies that people learn about the emotional and the mindset side of money.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's, and to be quite frank, that's another thing I struggled with when I was at the bank, is I wasn't doing very good financially. I was helping a lot of people that were doing well, and I was struggling myself because I was trying to make ends meet, and I also had this passion to start a business, and I was learning and putting a lot of money in my own education. Yeah. But I was having more debt than I really was, educating other people to not have, right?
Interesting.
So I was in this, place of, okay, I'm not being completely integral here because I'm struggling. And I took steps to clean that up and to move out of that situation. But I believe, and that's, some of the things that come up with the people I talk to and through my practice is around their beliefs around money, and their beliefs around their career, because and the emotions tied to that is what can, and I think my financial situation actually kept me in a depressed state for longer than I needed to be, because I was just so stuck in it, right?
And that's so beautiful that you say that. It's exactly right. We are often thinking about depression. Oh, he's depressed, as if this is something that comes out of the blue. And in some people it does. In some people it manifests itself out of the blue. But often enough, there are so many stresses in your life. And as you said, we never get taught about money. Maybe nowadays it's changing that teensiest, weeniest bit in some situations, but otherwise, my children just went out of school. They had zilch education about money. For crying out loud. I mean, the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I'm the poor dad, yet I'm making a very handsome income from working my guts out. But really, I'm no longer the poor dad because I have learned to become the rich dad. That is, I'm proud to say. But for many of my colleagues, for example, they are financial imbeciles. They have zero training, and it's they work hard. They have got lots of assets. My ass. They have got expensive cars that are depreciating so rapidly. They have got boats. They have got beautiful houses, and they're all not really counting as assets when you look at it. So bottom line is, there are a lot of people who know very, very little about it. And that's the money side. And then suddenly the COVID hits, and people stand there and think, what the hell? Because they've just had a 2x4 hit over the head. So that is an issue. And I'm so pleased that you're so open about it, because money makes the world go around, or destroys relationships, destroys your self-confidence, fast tracks your slip and slide into a very dark hole if the money is not there and you don't have the skills and the awareness around it. So wonderful thank you for your openness. So at the moment, we are at a point with you where in your history you were hanging in there. You were aware. You had this awareness that I'm not doing so well yet. I'm making all these promises, etc. But then things changed. The wheels came off. How did that happen? What was your catalyst, your moment of truth?
Yeah, like I struggled with bouts of depression throughout my 20s and 30s, and so I go on and off of medication, and I go see different psychologists and different therapists. A lot of it was more CBT based, the cognitive behavior therapy based, and I did a lot of journaling, and I found that I'd always, whenever I felt better, I would just stop going to see the psychologist or the therapist I was seeing, and I'd go off the medications. And then it just came to a grinding halt when I remember it. I was 37 years old. I was in the basement of this townhouse that my first wife and I owned at the time, and we had decided to separate, and we were actually living in this townhouse being separated, and it was just tearing me apart. I just was trying to figure out what am I doing wrong here? Like, why is this happening to me? I've just completely been stuck in this place for so many years, and now everything's falling apart. I had my oldest son was 2 at the time, and I'm like, this is just going to completely change his world. And I was just so sad and alone in this basement. In this basement room I was in, I was at my computer, and we just moved into this place about 3 months before, so there's still boxes around. There was no windows in this room, and the cat that we had decided that this room was its litter box a lot of the time, so it just it smelled like cat urine, and it just was this terrible place to be in. But it was this the quiet room I could be in the house, and I'm looking at my computer trying to find ways to solve this anxiety in this low time period I was going through. And I just came to this realization that I got to stop asking myself, why is this happening? Like, it's not working anymore, right? And I got to shift that, and I started to say, okay, what is this for? There's got to be a bigger reason for why this is happening. So what is this for? And I started to focus on that. And it was interesting because when I started to focus on that, people started to come into my life that I had never met before to help me better understand that. And that kind of helped me start to shift out of it and look for different ways of perceiving my depression and not looking at it as necessarily a bad thing. There's gifts in it. There's a lot of skills that I access when I'm depressed, right? That I can use when I'm not depressed, but there's tons of gifts in it.
Oh, beautifully said. But I mean, was that really something that came out of your heart? Was that or out of the deep recesses of your brain, or did you actually seek help? Did you find people who were guiding you to ask the right questions?
I asked that initial question, what is this for? And then I started to see, I started to find therapists that were a little bit more that I could relate to, right? And that were looking at and helping people that have gone through what I went through. Because a lot of times I just found a psychologist, and I had seen, I thought only that cognitive behavior was the only way to go. And then I started to recognize that there's all these different modalities out there. So I saw a hypnotherapist. I saw other counselors that were more feeling based, right? And really getting me to feel. And the counselors that really I benefited from, and this I think it's unique to everybody, but for me, they said, okay, Aaron, we need to start to get you off your antidepressant. We need to start to titrate you slowly off of it, and talk to your doctor, make sure that's okay, because you're not feeling anything right now. You're completely numb being on this medication.
Okay.
And depression is anger turned inward, is what one of the counselors said to me. And that just, a huge light bulb went off when she said that. It was like, wow. She said, have you considered the fact that depression is anger turned inward? And I was like, realizing I had no relationship to anger other than the fact that you avoid it. to the nth degree. You do not get angry. You do not show it. You just hold it in, right?
Nice.
And that was like, okay, there's something to this. There's something to
Nice.
this as to what I've been struggling with, because I have not been accessing anger at all. Or if I was, it was very passive aggressive.
And that's the typical thing, isn't it? We have no idea about these emotions. They are holding us hostage, and they come out of the deepness of our brain. We have no idea why they arrive typically. And most of the time, they're not so nice. And then you feel guilty, you feel shame. Why are you not a man who is happy? Why are you so down and out? My God, just look at you. Why? And there is the why question. The why question that doesn't get you anywhere. That's right. So I'm so, I want to say proud of you, but that sounds condescending. I'm so pleased for you. I'm so happy for you that your brain told you a different way how to look at things. And that is incredibly powerful, incredibly beautiful. And there are there are a lot of lies that the brain tells you.
Yeah. And you know what I actually recognized is I was in my head. I was in my mind too much. And it was actually when I started, it was actually more my heart was telling me this. And when I connected to my heart, I got outside of the logical side of my brain. And that's where things opened up more, is where I started to connect with that heart energy, whatever you want to call that. That's when things started to change. And knowing how to release my anger in a safe way opened up my heart more, so that I wasn't in my head so much. Yeah, so I would say my heart kind of guided me to this more than my mind in some ways.
But what was the emotion then that was predominant? For me, it was anger and resentment. Yeah. My depression, really, I was a very angry man, because I was angry about everyone else out there, what they did to me, rather than taking ownership and taking a good hard look at those aspects where I might have contributed, or where I might be the sole reason that I'm in a shit state. What was the predominant emotion for you if it was not anger?
You know what, it was sadness. You know, because when I did my counseling diploma through this amazing program called PRAC, through an organization called Clear Mind International, it's you actually have an opportunity to do like role plays to the highest level. Like you're actually experiencing your emotions in new ways, and it's amazing. Right. And so there's a certain process that you can do to help you with anger, and what I learned is that anger is really just a surface emotion, right? It's really there to block what's going on underneath. So once I got that anger out, it was like all this sadness that was there from the loss of my grandfather, and also the loss of my birth dad, because I didn't have a relationship with my birth dad for the majority of my my life. Like I saw him when I was about 12, and he came at Christmas time and gave me this amazing present, and I thought he was the greatest person in the world because he gave me a Pac-Man arcade game, and it was like, wow. But then I never saw him again until I was in my mid-30s. When he was very ill, and he ended up passing away very, very shortly after I reconnected with him. And so there's all this sadness around these men that I hadn't had a connection with, and also, sadness for myself and having to go through all this struggle when, and so I just had tremendous sadness show up. Yeah.
And at the same token, whilst the sadness was there, you were still functioning probably at a pretty high level, is my educated guess. Or did that sadness already start impacting on those aspects of your life where the money was coming from? How were you at work? Or was that an alter persona that was at work? Where did you have to mask up all the time?
There was a bit of a mask at work for sure. And I did feel comfortable. That was a bit of a work in progress for me to start to, because I was doing this counseling diploma while I was at the bank part-time. I was taking it in the evenings. And so there was still that mask that would show up at work because I didn't feel comfortable sharing what I was going through because it was so emotional, and a lot of people didn't really want to talk about emotions at work, right? That's what I found. But what I learned is that, that sadness and even the anger, it's not there forever, right? When the emotion shows up, it's there usually for a few minutes, and then the next emotion shows up, right?
Beautiful.
So, it's not like I was all of a sudden crying all the time at work and crying all the time because I opened it up. It was more I'd have these moments of sadness, and the exercise that I would do around releasing anger is that sadness would show up, and then I'd actually go through some steps to remember the truth about myself and really access that. So allow the sadness to be there, but then correct the false belief that I'm not good enough, that I'm unlovable, whatever that may be, right? And to really ground into that I am good enough. I matter. No matter what I'm going through, I matter, and that's where I would stand in that more than the that I don't matter, that the false belief around that.
That's the low self-esteem. That's the loss of hope, all those kind of things, those aspects of depression that can be so powerful. So that's beautiful that you were able to address that. Again, did you actually, whilst you say that the counseling that you received and becoming a counselor, becoming a coach, was that, you go through those things. How shall I say that? We need people in our lives that listen to what we are saying, what we are really saying. And more importantly, we need people in our lives who are listening out for that you don't say, what you don't admit to, because we don't know what we don't know. So who helped you break through that? At the moment, I can't see it yet. Was there a breakthrough, or was that so many little steps that you took where each step gave you that little bit of a like a Christmas calendar? You open one door and then you now open the next door and you think and very soon then the picture comes together. Was it a bit like that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I didn't have, like, other than that, just that moment where I started to look at, okay, what is this for? But I still wasn't sure what to, where to go next with that. I just kind of started to believe in that there's a different way of looking at things. And so I actually started going to the Clear Mind had a community, and they had monthly talks. So that's where I started. I started to just find a community that was connected to my values and what I believed in. And then through that community, I found my counselor, Satu. And so that was the next step that I made. And then through working with her, I took a workshop. And that was another step, right? And then that workshop led me to taking this counseling program, which I had no intention of becoming a counselor. It was a 3-year program. You didn't have to become a counselor to do it.
Excellent.
But I thought I'm going to do the first year, because the first year is all about working on yourself.
Excellent.
I thought that's what I need right now, right? And so these little steps along the way. And in that course, there's little steps I took as well. Yeah. And so that's what I recognize, that there's these little baby steps. It could be really small that we take.
Beautiful.
And it just is another stepping stone to heal, right?
Beautiful. You just described the most effective way, in my opinion, how to address any problem in this world, is to actually think about it and try to think, what is there a problem? And then turn that problem into the opposite, not a problem, but a dream. If that is what you don't want to be, okay, who do you want to be? Yeah. And then be very, very clear and very, very specific. Be crystal clear in your goal setting to a degree that it's nuts. It don't say, oh, I want to be rich. No, I want to have 1.125 million monthly income so that I can achieve my why, my whatever it is that is driving you. So you're very clear about your goal, that you have turned negative from your problem. So negative problem, positive goal. So that became dream, vision. And now you have created a mission. because with you having this guidance for a year, you looked at these opportunities, rephrased now, and started, okay, how do I get there? Tiny little steps every day. And that is so powerful. Guys, if you're shit in maths, let me teach you compound interest is the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing in this world, because you put $1 into the bank and then you get a bit of interest on it. Then you put another $1 in the bank. You think, okay, I've got $2. Well, no, you haven't. You have actually $2 plus that little bit into interest. Now you put another $1 in there over time, and now you've got $3 plus a little interest. But initially you might have had $1.01, and now you've got $2.03 because the interest has grown. Then you've got $3.10, and so it goes. But you keep taking these tiny little steps consistently, and suddenly you have got a freaking million in your hands, and you had no idea where's this money coming from. That is compound interest, and that is how you make money. That's one way how to make money. But that's the same with any action you take towards a better you, towards a man who you can truly look into the mirror, into his eyes and say, well done, love you, brother, I love you, warts and all. And that is beautiful, but you need to work on that. It just doesn't sort of go, whoosh, there it is in my lap. There's my new life, just because I want to. My ass, that doesn't work. So when did that happen? When did you start opening that first little door? When was that?
The first, I think, it was when I started seeing the even going to that community group. And listening to the presentations, just starting to open things up, and like, oh, they have counselors here. Maybe I'll see a counselor there because I like what they're doing.
So when was that? When put a date to it or a month to
that
it?
That was around 2011, 2012.
There you go. Here we are talking 10 years of solid growth.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why you are sitting here. You have not just dreamed and think, I could become a guest on the show. I will wing it. No, no. You worked hard in exploring it, and you found, oh, look, there's a Band-Aid. Let's take it off. Oh, shit, that hurts. Oh, there's a bit of pus underneath there. Let's deal with that, shall we? So you started healing by addressing things. You got yourself a power team together where you were the dumbest person in the team. And you started listening to people because A, you accepted that there was a problem. B, you hoped and somehow knew that there would be hope and help out there. And you accepted that. And then you looked around, found the power team, and took a brutal inventory. You looked what is actually going on. What worked, what doesn't work. In a financial system, that would be basically you doing a budget, monthly outgoings, incomings, those kind of things. That is sort of the step 4. And then you really started going into a bit more into depth and started putting little habits into place. Logical things to do. Well, I've just described the first part of, or the first 6 steps of a 12-step program. Okay, so if you look at it, go away from the religious side, go away from the addiction side. A 12-step program is a systematic way how you can get your shit together. And I've written a book here. This way. My Steps to Sobriety, out there and anywhere where you can buy books, but go to Amazon. They can have it as an ebook and as a hard copy. The reason I say that is I talk a bit about finances in there, but I'm talking a lot about the 12-step program as a way of approaching really any problem that you have got in your life. Of course, it works well for addiction. That's where it is renowned for, but also it helps for depression. It helps for so many other things. If you have no idea where to start, not a bad start, but there are many other ways. And I love that what you said, Aaron. There are so many so many approaches that you can take, but it all starts with accepting that maybe the life that you're living right now is not so great, and that it's time to change. And that you were lucky there. You had that at a very early stage. And which message would you send to your younger self, to that young Aaron who was sitting in the basement and still had that stinking thinking going on? What would you tell that person?
You're okay. You're absolutely okay where you are right now. And you matter so much to the world. And, follow your heart as to what, where to go next. Right? Leave the logic aside right now. The logic will come after, but just breathe into your heart and the answers will come.
And they do, isn't it? Ultimately, those waves that come over you, the sadness, the anger, the anxiety, all those manifestations of depression, they are messengers, as far as I'm concerned. They tell me, hey, Stefan, I think you have overdone it a little bit. Have you really showed yourself the respect that you deserve? I mean, you show other people respect, your patients, your wife, your children. Did you show yourself the respect? Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? And now you're surprised that your mood is down. Really, really, Stefan, is that the level of your intelligence? And that's this emotional intelligence, this emotional awareness of yourself, where you have to say, okay, fair enough. Okay, I didn't sleep for a week, and now I'm a bit ratty, anxious, and actually quite down. Could I have to do with it? So what are the steps nowadays that you are sure that you're not getting back into that basement? How is your life now compared with the past?
What I recognize for myself is physical fitness is crucial for my mental health, and so I've even during COVID here, I actually fell on the way, exercise fell on the wayside, and I wasn't taking care of myself for the last couple of years, because I started to right at the beginning of COVID, and I was going out with my boys, and we were bike riding and doing lots of fun things, and then my shoulder went out, and I had a rotator cuff injury, and that just set me back because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't play basketball. I couldn't throw a ball like I wanted to. And so that kind of started me down this path of not exercising through the last couple of years. So even this year, I've reinvested energy into my, being physically active and getting back to a place where I can go running again, and maybe even play basketball again is what I'd love to be able to do. And then also recognizing just the foundational stuff, eating habits, and eating a lot healthier, not just ate a lot of junk food and stuff during COVID just because it was fun, and but also the stress of not being able to do a lot of things. So I've really cut back on that, and then drinking more water as well, and then I've been meditating. I've on and off I've meditated a bit, but I've reinvested time and energy into meditating because I find just getting quiet and connecting to my vision and my the affirmations, and that has really helped a lot. But when people they go, wow, Aaron, that's so much. Like, how do you do it all? I just start with one thing.
Exactly.
And a lot of times it's just exercise. It's like, okay, I want to go 3 days a week. I want to go for a walk for 15 minutes, right? Not something that's actually attainable is how I start. And then after I start doing that and I start progressing and doing more, then I can add something in, because that becomes a habit, right? And now that's because if this is probably around the time of year when everybody has stopped exercising because they had a goal at the beginning of the year to exercise, and now it's maybe fallen on the wayside, and that's because maybe there was too much of a big goal, right? And that wasn't realistic.
The 5-minute gardener principle.
Yes, right.
I want you to do 5 minutes in your garden. Never more. I forbid you to do anything more than 5 minutes, but never do anything less than 5 minutes in your garden. 5 minutes out of a day. And you would think, yeah, what? guess what? After a month or two, your garden will be blooming and blossoming, and you think, what the hell? If it's a veggie garden, you don't know what to do with your veggies because they're so abundant. So the same thing holds true for every single aspect of your self-care, of you establishing new habits. Make those 5 minutes sacred, but put them in every day, not more, not less. Don't go over the top. I'm the typical idiot. So I do nothing. And then I think, oh my God, I haven't done anything. So let me go to the gym, do 2 hours. And then the next thing is I can't walk for about a week. And they're counterproductive. So that's just stupid. That's just me, boom and bust. That's my weakness. I can be incredibly infused about something. Yeah, let's do it. And then it falls by the wayside because life suddenly happens and interferes. And that's the skill. Okay, that's the skill of the 5 minutes stuff. And it's, in your case, it's already a little bit more. And you look at it as an investment. The more you invest in yourself, the better you will be, the better person you are. And then when shit hits the fan, which inevitably occurs, you're a better man or a better human being to actually deal with the new challenges that life throws you. It is nice. I see your smile. I see you nodding, and that is this cool passion for life. The insight once you have figured out how your brain actually ticks, and don't judge it. It's just what it is. That's how it works. Then you can work with it. Then you can alter it and you can manipulate it, although that's a negative word, but you can play with it and you can figure it out. So it is, how did you try to escape the negative feelings, the sadness? Because we didn't touch upon that. No one likes sadness. No one likes pain. So most of us are trying to do something that makes them feel better, like the immediate gratification. Some of us gamble. Some of us eat everything that comes into their fingers. Some of us drink, smoke. What was your vice or vices?
A lot of it was, I would do a lot of research on business ideas. Looking back, like I loved, looking at different business concept franchises, network marketing, and then also personal growth books and that. So I think I actually went, similar how you said, how you go all in on the gym for 2 hours. Like, I think I kind of went all in on all these personal growth and learnings about business, to the extreme level, right? Where I was just engrossed in it. And then I'd also be just obsessing about work, right? I'd be, even when I wasn't working, I'd be thinking about what I need to do to hit my sales targets.
Right.
And so those thoughts were just, I was addicted to thoughts. I wasn't addicted to drugs or alcohol, but definitely just negative thoughts.
Nice. And also addicted to work, because work allows you to focus on something. Therefore, you don't have to focus on those things that are not so nice in your life. Guilty as charged. I'm constantly working. Nowadays, I've shifted my focus towards working on me and working in my life, but that was certainly not the case for decades earlier. Okay, so
and the sadness would show up too for me when certain commercials that had certain music or the end of a movie with the music playing and it's like a happy ending. I would tears would start coming and I would hide them, right? I would really try to avoid showing them for the longest time. And now I want my boys to see that their dad can cry and it's okay. But previously, I would just like, oh my goodness, I can't. Why am I crying at this commercial with these grandparents and this child? And this is all weird, but it actually makes sense. Like it's emotions coming up around it. Yeah. And
you and I had not learned to deal with these emotions. They were bottled up and kept down under all circumstances. And then suddenly those few moments when you actually allow yourself, like a commercial or like certain music, Les Miserables.
Yeah.
If I put the soundtrack of Les Miserables on, within minutes, I'm crying my eyes out. It's a good thing, because it's finally a floodgate that I can control and open when I need it to. And it's just amazing when it happens. Oh God, it's so beautiful to actually experience the release of your emotions. But bottom line is, do they have to be bottled up for such a long time that they need a release valve? Or could we not do every day a little bit something to actually work on them, deal with the underlying reasons for those emotions, those sad emotions, maybe try to prevent them with a lifestyle where you're actually excited to get out of bed. Or if you wake up not so excited, then you have found skills and ways how to excite yourself, how to refocus your energy onto something that is worthwhile living. Would that not be cool?
It'd be amazing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Aaron has done that. I have done that. So if two numbnuts, I was about to say, but that's sort of a you can take it both ways. If two guys like us can get our shit together, I think there's still hope for you out there. Whoever's listening, guys. Okay. So we have done it. What stops you? Yeah, sorry, I don't hear you. No, I can't think of anything either. So no, you can do it. Aaron, you're a great man. So if there's anyone out there who likes to what you said and shares some of the insights with you and wants to get in touch, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the book behind me here, Engage, Connect, Grow, is on Amazon. So definitely, that's a workbook that I created. And a key aspect of it I use is journaling to help people heal through mental health, like heal their mental health, their depression, their anxieties. There's 52 lessons, so it's essentially set up where they can do one lesson a week, right? Just start small, and they're really short lessons. And even teams can use it. I've set it up so that even if a team at a company or a small group wants to do it together, you're able to do that as well. And then you can also, a variety of different resources on our Facebook page, Engage Coaching Group, as well. If we can go on there and access different free resources and tools and that there.
Oh, beautiful. And guys, look down there into the description of the video and of the YouTube, of the podcast, and you will find all the details there. So check it out. What have you got to lose? And more importantly, let's not focus on the losing. Let's focus on the gaining. What beautiful life could you possibly create and foster, and how could you change those core beliefs that maybe so far had held you back? There is a way forward. Every single one of my guests on this show has shown you that. My story is showing you that. So guys, there is hope. And I need you to understand that. However dark right now your situation is, there is hope. You just can't see it yet. There's hope. And these emotions, they will pass. These are just waves of neurochemicals. Sometimes they hang around for a few days, sometimes a few weeks, but they will pass. And there are ways to fast track you out of the shit. And that is where people like Aaron come in, and where our books come in, our interviews come in. So guys, go out there, live your life, live with passion. And if you don't know yet how to do it, well, take someone like Aaron, get in touch with him, do a discovery call, and see, maybe there's something where you can address one tiny aspect of your life, work on that, and deal with it. And then you think, whoa, did I do that? Oh, that feels good. And isn't it amazing that oh, okay, that feels good. And once you're there, then there's no more holding you back. And you've tasted blood. And it's just, yes, okay, I want more of that. So, Aaron, I'm so glad that I had you on my show. You're an amazing man. Your story is beautiful, because it actually did not have the really, really hardcore, down and out, broken in the gutter kind of feel to it, but far more the kind of suffering that is so common out there and that people just take for granted because they don't know better. So there was a long-standing suffering. There was the depression that actually was blatantly clear, yet for many people, they live you alive and just keep going. And it takes them forever to get out. You have given us the power to see that. By you sharing your story, you open their eyes. And that's beautiful. For that, I'm incredibly grateful. So Aaron Solly, a great man. Thank you so much for being on my show. And you guys out there, look after yourself. Okay, bye.